Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
All right, Brad, we are back. Well, already rusty.
Yeah.
There we are. Now we're back. How long were we gone?
Well, the Giants were 10-11 while we were gone. So that's 3 weeks worth of baseball right there.
Yeah.
I guess it was 3 weeks. Our last show was July 8th, I want to say.
Were we
8th,
right
9th?
before the break? Maybe
Right before the All-Star. Well, no, a week before the All-Star break.
Got it.
Because I was in Tahoe watching games up there. Got to watch the Yaz Grand Slam game while I was up in Tahoe against the Brewers.
That was a good one.
The ninth inning comeback. That was fantastic. So missed a lot of good baseball. Also missed a lot of crappy baseball. So there's that. Kind of evened out.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the business side of baseball with the trade deadline.
Favorite side.
Well, I find it fascinating as a fan.
Sure.
As a fan, it's a little tough when your team is kind of hamstrung a little bit. Like I'm watching the Pitching Ninja Twitter feed just got like a gif of DeGrom throwing a 92-mile-an-hour changeup coming off the DL, and it's just
ridiculous.
It'd be nice if we had one of those coming off the DL. But there's also this other side of the side that we do love, which is the romanticism side, which is what made us a fan. And we'll talk about that later in the last segment, which was the Will Clark retirement ceremony, number retirement, which was tremendous. Gosh, awesome. That was so great. In the middle of that, I'll talk about being in Arizona, and I got to see the Giants live. They played the Diamondbacks, and I'll just give you watching one game. I'm not seeing anything that scouts aren't seeing or that front office isn't seeing, but it was decidedly different from the games that I had been to at home. Just the energy and stuff. So we'll talk about that. But let's talk about what's on everybody's mind, which is this trade deadline and what the Giants did and didn't do, maybe even more importantly, didn't do, depending on what side of the fence you are with this fan base. We're going to utilize the great McCovey Chronicles here because they had a great little write-up, and that'll just help us summarize all the trades in a little bit easier way. So let's look at McCovey Chronicles website here. Where it's got to be in one of my tabs here. Where is it at? I'll find it in a second. So the basically the Giants made, was it 3 deals? 3 deals, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So they made the Casalli deal and Matt Boyd together as one. They made the Ruff deal.
You see it now?
Yep. There.
Okay, there we go. For you listening rather than watching, we just basically pulled up the McCovey Chronicles blog post from earlier today discussing all of the deals. So the first one, and this happened kind of surprisingly. I don't know what we thought was going to happen when we saw Darren Ruff was the first guy, at least the first announced trade. Now, the Giants got an infielder, outfielder. Obviously, they love folks who can play multiple positions, but from what I understand, defensively, might not be that much different from Darren Ruff, and that is J.D. Davis. I saw some stats. I saw some defensive stats that weren't very nice to him.
Yeah,
but he's the player I think that probably people would know. And then they got 3 right-handed pitcher, or I'm sorry, one right-handed pitcher, 2 left-handed pitchers, and 2 of those guys were numbers 21 and 22 on the Mets prospect list. So JD Davis, Carson Seymour, Nick Zwack, which is hopefully a sound that is what players don't do to his fastball. And Tomek Zapucki were the guys that they got from Ruff. And I don't, when you're talking about 21 and 22 in the prospects list, you're not talking about guys who you expect to just come up and go through the farm system and just do damage. They're just as much wild cards as anyone else. But for a player, Darren Ruff, who the Giants probably feel like they can already duplicate with the roster they have now, his right-handed defensive DH. He's basically a DH who you can throw in the field and hope he's not in too many hard defensive situations.
Yeah.
What did you think about this deal?
I think it was a good deal. Ruff has an option for next year. Was it 2.5 or 3.5 million? And I think it's the Giants' option to pick that up. But most likely they weren't going to do it. I think they were kind of shifting gears. This was this wasn't a tank job. This isn't like the Giants made these moves today and said, well, we're just throwing in the towel. I don't think that. I think this was just a little bit of a philosophy shift to say, well, next year, Ruff, we have a lot of DHs. You're the odd man out because you can't hit righties and lefties. So we kind of have to make this move. JD Davis can hit both for the most part. He could be the DH next year. And also the Giants got 3 minor leaguers that were not in their system at the beginning of the day today. And that's like you said too, it's kind of, you hope to find a diamond in the rough, no pun intended. But you hope to find a diamond in the rough, and you do that by adding bodies, because you never know. Change of scenery, philosophy change for one of these guys might be kind of what they need and what they've needed in their careers. So I like the deal. I thought the deal was good. JD Davis is a masher. He has hit 300 before. I think in his last full season that he played in the majors, about 140 games, I think, is his max. I don't have his numbers in front of me right now, but he did hit over 300. And he's got a pretty big OPS. So I like the move. We'll see. Yeah. I just saw something on Twitter, came across that he will be in the lineup tomorrow.
So in this season, he is hitting 238 in 181 at bats. I have a buddy, my buddy Corey is a Mets fan, and he's also a big baseball fan. So he was texting me all day today about different things that were going on. He said that he thinks that Davis himself may benefit from playing more regularly, because I'm assuming that they use Davis just like they're expected to use Ruff, which is against lefties. But he said, so I'll give you his little recap here. So he's been our righty DH, major league player, underachieving this year, but hits lefties. And then he said, you got Zapucki, who was one of our pitching prospects. I was unimpressed with him when he was called up this year. Davis might do better playing every day. So, I mean, based off of that description of who Davis is, it sounds like they traded for a younger version of the guy that they have, that they would have a little bit more control over, because like you said, Ruff has this year, then he's got next year, and then the 2024, there's a club option. They could buy him out for $250,000.
Yeah. And again, I mean, not a terrible move. And not a great move. It's not Juan Soto. I know a lot of people were expecting Juan Soto.
We'll talk about that guy. So the year that he hit
definitely not that move.
The year that he hit 300 was 2019. He had 410 ABs. He hit 22 jacks, and he had an 895 OPS. So why did he go from playing just about every day before the pandemic to coming back after the pandemic and being more of a platoon guy? That probably has everything to do with the way that baseball has evolved with this righty-lefty situation, and that probably makes the Giants happy to trade him, because he is comfortable in that role. Because that's the other thing is if you get an everyday guy and he comes to your team and you're like, nope, you're just hitting lefties, that player may not be able to take that. So having somebody also come in, there's value in him already doing this job if that's the plan for him.
Well, and when you look at career splits for JD Davis, his career OPS against righties is 785. Career OPS versus lefties is 775. So it's pretty even. So you got a guy who's a touch more versatile than Ruff at the plate. So, again, it's a very tiny improvement, plus 3 prospects. If one of them makes it to the majors, great. If one of them turns into somebody else down the line in another trade, then great. You're just kind of taking those shots, and that's as we know, that's what Zadie does. And some of us, me, love it. Some people, hot take Bry, don't love it, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the shots in the dark. I love the taking the chances. And it happens. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Speaking of hot take Bry, here was his last tweet about about the end of this draft. So Evan Webeck had tweeted that Zadie said, "The present is really important to us. This is a group we have faith in." And Brian retweeted that and said, "Need the broadcast to zoom in on Farhan when we're losing to the Dodgers 6-2 tonight."
Oh no!
So he is very much fit on Giants Twitter as far as the negative folks are concerned.
And he's going to the game tonight, right?
Yes, he's going to the game.
Okay.
Both of my kids are going. JJ is down. He's not going to be down for long. He was only here for a couple weeks. Then he's got to go back to school. But they're both going. So I'll have to talk to them about that tonight.
Hot Take Bryce said he's going to have a big thumbs down for Zadie tonight in the stand. So if you happen to see, if you're sitting there watching the game and bam, you get zoomed in on, and some kid gets zoomed in on, I mean, he's in his 20s and he's got the thumbs down, you know exactly who that is.
I wonder if he could find a giant Zadie head to carry with him.
That'd be fantastic.
All right, so trade number 2 that came across the wire was Kurt Casalli. And you know what's funny about Casalli is if you go to Giants games and, if you're sitting up close, you could tell the difference between Casalli and Ruff. But if you're kind of, in the euchre seats a little bit, you're like, which one is which? Because they're just 2 big bearded dudes who hit right-handed. So Casalli, the other Ruff, he was traded, and this was an interesting one because
the other Ruff, I love that.
Because the Giants, I think the Giants really like Kurt Casalli. They like the stability that he brings to this pitching staff, and he was going to be the guy. They sent Bart down and just turned it over to Casalli, and we're like, okay, you're going to be the everyday catcher, and he was producing. And then he got hurt, and he's been on the DL with concussion, right? Was that the injury?
Yeah.
And so
oblique.
Oh, no. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, he had the oblique issue and just about to come back, too. He's very close to coming back. So that tells you they're pretty high on what Wins and Bart are doing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at the plate, but with the pitching staff.
And so he goes, as well as Matt Boyd, who we didn't even have a chance to see Matt Boyd. They'd signed him in the offseason with the idea that he was going to miss a large chunk of the first half of the season. And then when he started his rehab process, he had a setback. And so he's going in this deal, and they get back right-hander Michael Streifler and catcher Andy Thomas. And according to the McCovey Chronicles blog here, they say that Streifler is heavy strikeout and heavy walk guy reliever in Double-A. And the catcher is Thomas, who's destroying the baseball in High A, except he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
So that seems like a perfect guy for the Giants to kind of get in there. They love guys like that, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and again, some more minor leaguers add to the system. We knew coming into Zadie's regime here that this is how it was going to be. He took over a really, really rough minor league system. the philosophy all along has been, our goal is to build the farm system and put a competitive team on the field and play meaningful baseball in September and October. And that's what they're doing. I mean, by not ditching Rodon, by not ditching Peterson, they're kind of working at trying to play meaningful baseball still in September and October, 4.5 games out of the final wild card spot going into tonight. What do we have? 3 games left with the Dodgers. It's an uphill climb right now, because the Cardinals got better, the Phillies got better. So it's kind of a tough thing, but again, build that farm system. The moves today were not necessarily about getting better on the field in San Francisco. Today, it was about getting better on the field in San Francisco, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. Because again, if any of these prospects turn around and end up being a piece that you can trade for a better player down the line, a veteran, somebody who can help you out in a playoff push next year. I know fans don't want to hear that. I know people don't like to hear that, but you and I play out of the park baseball, and so we know, kind of looking at when you're trying to build a franchise, you're not always looking at what's today, what's tomorrow, what's 3 days from now. You're looking at what can I do for this team next year? Am I going to be as a GM around 4 years from now? If I am, what kind of team do I want to have on the field? Not that we're, major league GMs, but we are. I mean, all of us are, because we're fans.
Yeah.
And what do we do on Twitter all day? We GM the crap out of this team. That's what we do on Twitter all day. What if we get this guy? What if we get this guy?
You had Bader going to New York and swinging through San Francisco.
Yes,
for Rodon. I thought that was a good one.
I thought his golden locks would do very well in center field in San Francisco. I go, oh, look at that. They're going to put something together and try to go after Rodon at the last minute. And no.
All right, last trade here. Trevor Rosenthal, who we also did not even get a chance to see on the baseball field. This was the trade that I liked the most because it was so savvy, I thought. And maybe in the whole scheme of things, maybe they didn't even consider Rosenthal to be that much of a piece for the team. I think they just assumed that he would be valuable to them at the deadline. They trade him for outfield prospect Tristan Peters, who is playing very well at high A. Also a little on the older side for a guy who was drafted out of high school, but he is 22, lost a year, obviously, like everyone did in the pandemic. But 22, high A. Hopefully, I think the Giants would probably move him to Richmond because you said that he was already on his way to Double A before he got traded. So Hopefully he goes to Richmond. But Tristan Peters for Trevor Rosenthal. So the Giants basically traded 2 pitchers who never took the mound for them and 2 of their heavy right-handed bats. And like you said, they took some shots in the minors with guys who hopefully can give them a little bit more depth in that minor league system. And we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens. But what did you think about dealing We Never Knew You Rosenthal?
I don't want to use the word brilliant, but I thought it was a fantastic move. That's why. I mean, and Rosenthal was just picked up 12 days ago, and Milwaukee is paying the rest of his contract. So that's, I mean, like it cost the Giants 12 days worth of salary, which is fantastic. And now they get a Double A 22-year-old number 19 prospect out of this. And that's why when you look at them, when they say, well, they signed Boyd in January, he's coming off of arm surgery, and everybody goes, oh, look, another project. Oh, this and that. And you sit there and you got to think, what this guy could turn into a prospect around July. But it's funny that two guys who never even saw the mound at Oracle or were even, in the mix to pitch because they were both rehabbing, they both turned into prospects. And I think that's fantastic because, again, what could they have helped us down the line? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you put Duvall and Rosenthal, and then you mix in Boyd for a couple of starts down the stretch. So I see a lot of people thinking probably, well, that's kind of the throw in the towel move then, because those are the guys that could have helped us. Rosenthal hasn't pitched in a couple of years. Boyd is coming off an injury. What are the chances that those guys versus who we have in AAA who have been playing all season long will help more than the guys in AAA? I don't know. We'll never know, but I think I'll take my chances with the AAA guys. And if you think Zadie's done with the waiver wire between now and October, you haven't been paying attention to this team and what he does. There's going to be another pitcher that gets DFA'd. There were 3 or 4 pitchers that got DFA'd today because of moves that were made. 1 or 2 of those guys are going to end up being picked up, and they're going to end up in Sacramento within the next couple of days. And maybe we see them in September. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes.
So I really love this by the NBC Sports Bay Area social account. This was their goodbye to Trevor Rosenthal here. Forever Giant Trevor Rosenthal. Games played 0, record 0, run 0, strikeout 0, walks 0. Forever Giant Trevor Rosenthal. When they traded Rosenthal, my immediate reaction, and I even tweeted it, was like, "Oh, they're selling the farm," because at least they told us, and this is how it was sold to the fan base, is that we know Duvall needs someone to help out in those later innings. Rogers, not great this year. We already let go McGee. There are other relievers who are kind of trying to fit in, and some better than others. Leon's been pretty good. And so it was like, oh, that's the kind of move that you make when you are, trying to shore up the bullpen because you're going for it. So when he got traded, I was like, well, that means Rodon's going next and Jock's going next. And then it didn't happen. And then when you kind of think about it a second, you go, oh, they signed this guy with the idea of, if we're not a game, ahead in this playoff race, then we're just selling him. And we basically signed him on the cheap because we outbid all of these other teams because we have the money to do that. So I get it. That was really smart. Now, Rodon was like, okay, finally, now let's go out and freaking win some games. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't kick any bats this time, right? Because that was a little bit rough seeing him lose, his composure and almost possibly hurt Estrada. And then Estrada does get hurt later, and he's out. So the Giants are running out another guy that they had to trade for out at shortstop until Becraw comes back. And I guess he's playing in SAC. Is he playing in SAC tonight?
I'm not sure where his rehab assignment starts. I didn't think it was tonight, but it might be tomorrow. But yeah, it's either tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, he's starting back on the comeback trail, and then JD Davis will be in San Francisco tomorrow. And you almost wonder too. I mean, you and I didn't play at the level where we got traded, but I can imagine, especially all the players on the Giants, as you get closer, you're losing, you're getting tight. Things are getting tight.
Yeah.
Right around the All-Star break, and then you come out, you lose 7 in a row. Things are even tighter because now here comes the trade deadline. I like San Francisco. I have a cool house here. My neighbors are dope. My restaurant in the neighborhood I love to go to. I don't want to leave this place. I want to stay here. So you get even tighter. I'm kind of wondering if that's going to loosen this club up. I mean, you heard Rodon, you heard Jock Peterson. Hey, we're here, man. Let's go out and win now. I think maybe there's a collective exhale. Maybe some more fun will be had on the field. Because like you said, too, the game you went to, we just saw tightness. You saw no fun. Just
Yes.
not a group of guys playing together with a common goal. And maybe that changes tonight because maybe that's the start of something. And then what are they? Probably lose 12-0 tonight. But, I'm just saying, maybe tonight's the night. Things kick into gear, things turn around, guys are looser, and we start to see the club that we know and love.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that in a second. My live view of that game from last week. But a couple more things. Here's another quote from Zadie. And so Zadie said the Giants talked to the Nationals about Soto. No Giants players or prospects were untouchable, but obviously the Nationals gravitated toward the package with players they liked the best. Obviously, even with Logan Webb in on that deal, they just didn't have enough. Not when the Padres were willing to give up so many of their top guys who are outside of Harrison and Lucky Luciano. The Padres guys were more than likely more highly sought out than the Giants guys were. And my whole thing with Soto and I've been pretty consistent on this, is that I didn't want them to trade for him because Scott Boras is his agent, and more than likely he's going to hit free agency no matter what. I don't think they're going to give the Padres any sort of discount to, maybe they'll give him the opportunity to go crazy and maybe spend $700 million on the guy, but they're not going to say, you know what, we're going to sign this year. We're going to sign this contract a year early because we just want to get locked in. No, the whole reason why you hire Boras is so that you have the most leverage and you get to the market and you just have teams bid on you, right? Like that's the whole thing. And to me, you got how long until he's a free agent? Is it 2.5 years?
2.5 years. So I don't even. What year are we?
He'll be 26.
22. So 2025. He'll be 26 years old.
So at that point,
that's going to get him a bag right there.
He's Barry Bonds, right? He's 1993 Barry Bonds, and you go in with the best offer there if you really want him. Then it becomes only about money. And the current team, obviously, that you are, like, if you are a good team, I'm sure that helps you more so than if you're not a good team. But if I'm the Giants, and he's the guy that you want, you got 2.5 years to get your S together, and then you make the big play for him at that point. And then at that time, it's a matter of what your offer is. Do you have the best offer to get him? And if not, then there's no crying in baseball. You just go, okay, we go find somebody else. So that's my take on Soto. And then quickly, I'll get your take on Soto in a second, but I wanted to have this other quote was Zadie on holding Rodon. He says, the present really matters to us. For most of the season, we've been in a playoff spot. Obviously, we've had a bad couple of weeks. That put us on the fringes, but we know a hot 2 weeks can turn it around. Obviously, he is hoping out of this current baseball team that we've been watching, who haven't really had a ton of hot streaks, he must think that they're due. And then Kapler today said, like you said, JD Davis will be in the lineup tomorrow. B-Cross starts his rehab assignment tonight. I believe it's in Sacramento, and could be back Thursday or Saturday. I would guess because of his age, they may lean Saturday. Jock Peterson and Tyro. Jock likely to return Saturday. Tyro not that far behind. Those are the two concussion guys. So that's the latest on all the news. And let's get your take on Soto, and then just your take on the crazy deal that the Padres and the Nationals made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just realized tonight is Jerry Garcia tribute night, and it's sold out. So I might have to do a Jerry Garcia celebration tonight.
Uh-oh.
If you know what I mean. So talking about Juan Soto, and I think this was my stance from the beginning. I really didn't think we were going to get him either. It was just one of those things where it was like, we don't have the prospects. And if we did, we're emptying our prospects to get the guy for 2.5 years. And you are dead on. I mean, he's got Scott Boras. Where in the world is he going to? He's not going to sign with anybody that he gets traded to in the next 2.5 years. 26 years old. After 2.5 years in San Diego with that lineup, he's going to have some crazy good numbers, and he's just going to get a huge bag. My whole thing all along was anybody but the Dodgers, and that happened. The Padres, probably the second one we didn't want, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. The Padres seem to kind of step on their own feet. So I'm all right with them having him. If they don't win the World Series the next couple of years, at least, prevent the Dodgers from winning the World Series the next couple of years. That's all we could ask for. Would love to have him in 2.5 years. Make a huge run for him at that point. I know the Giants made a run for Bryce Harper because, again, you had the same young type of talent as a free agent at that time. That was Zadie's first offseason with the Giants. There was a push to get Harper. We still don't know. Was that a Zadie push or was that a Larry Baer push? We don't know. We don't know 100% who was pushing for that because the Giants aren't known for giving out gigantic contracts. But when a Juan Soto comes along, you do it. You just do it. And then same with an Aaron Judge. If Aaron Judge becomes a free agent, why not? You put that out there, and we've seen some glove work from Aaron Judge the last couple of days too. And so I get more and more convinced that, well, he could play left field for the Giants. He's a center fielder and a right fielder, but I think he could play left field for the Giants, down the line. But and also when you look at what the Padres gave up, God, they gave up. What was it? 5 or 6 of their top 10 picks to get him and Brandon Drury today. They also got Josh Hader yesterday. More prospects.
Did they also get Bell in that deal?
Yeah, so they also got Josh Bell too. And the worst part about it, I feel bad for Luke Voit. So Luke Voit's in the lineup today. Eric Hosmer's in the deal to go back to Washington. But he's got a no trade, and one of the teams on his no trade is Washington, and he will not waive it. He does not waive it. So instead, they go ahead and trade him off to Boston, where Boston has a top first base prospect in Tristan Peters. And so what's going to happen to Hosmer in the next couple of years? Who knows? But San Diego eats the entire contract. And Washington still wants a first baseman in return. So they end up getting Luke Voit. Luke Voit's in the lineup today for San Diego, and they pull him out and they go, oh, no, Hosmer's out of the deal. He declined. So you're in. Goodbye, sending you off to Washington. And unfortunately, Voigt's under contract for the next couple of years. So he's in Washington. He's going to play with a lot of top San Diego Padres prospects.
Yeah, I saw the deal, and they said, Hosmer is definitely he has the right to veto this trade and get himself out of it. But they also said that's not going to stop anything from happening. It's going to be like, okay, if it's not him, who else? Like, who else do you want? And it's yours. Yeah. So they were very vehement that deal is going to get made. All right. Were there any? I know that you'd compiled some numbers or some news about the deals. We have a couple more minutes. Are there any other deals that happened in these last couple days that caught your eye?
Yeah, I like to just focus on today because the trade deadline trades are always the most fun because they kind of come rapid fire. So Tyler Mahle, who's one of the Red starting pitchers, he was a big starting pitcher along with Luis Castillo, who ended up going to Seattle the other day for a big prospect haul. Which then, of course, Giants fans saw that and they go, oh, my God, we can get so much for Rodon. But again, is there another Seattle Mariners out there that was going to be willing to give up that kind of haul for Carlos Rodon, who could opt out at the end of this year.
Yeah,
and
it was a rent postseason essentially for Rodon.
Yeah, but if Rodon, let's say Rodon gets, let's say he gets traded to the Yankees, and he goes, God, I love the Yankees. This is fantastic. I want to stay in New York. Well, then he opts in, and he's on the hook for almost 25 next year. The Yankees could certainly do that. That's not a problem. But Mahle goes from the Reds to the Twins. The Twins give up their number 6, 12, 17, and 20 prospects to get Tyler Mahle. So if you're a pissed off Giants fan that we didn't get rid of Rodon, then I hope you closed your ears before I said all that, because that was another big haul. So they could have done a deal with the Twins, and I guess that was a rumor, as the Twins were in. Seattle was in on Rodon. They were taking calls, probably just didn't get, what they thought they wanted to get in return in order to ditch the season, because the Giants would have had to pretty much ditch the season had they said goodbye to Rodon.
Yeah.
They still have a chance, but that would have been it. That they don't have anybody else in the minor league system who's ready to come up, throw 100 miles an hour, and give them, what Rodon could give you right now.
Yep.
Like we talked about, Brandon Drury to the Padres, also from the Cincinnati Reds. Hosmer, like I was saying, went to the Red Sox for the number 12 pick in the 2016 draft. Jake Groom, we've heard that name before. He's been floating around for quite a while. Joey Gallo. So the Dodgers' big move today was Joey Gallo. And like I said, or I texted you immediately after, I said he's been struggling all year, so he's going to the Dodgers. That means he's going to hit 20 home runs and probably hit like 340 the rest of the year, because that's just kind of what happens. But he was traded for Clayton Beeter, who's a starting pitcher from the Dodgers organization. He was a second rounder in 2020. And that was kind of, that was their big move today. I'm sure they were in on Juan Soto. It just didn't happen for them. And there's probably, they're high on Dustin May. And I'm sure Dustin May was probably in on one of the prospects that the Nationals wanted. So, I'm sure they probably just stood pat. They figure, well, we kind of blew out our minor league system a little bit last year with, getting Scherzer and Trey Turner. So maybe they want to kind of hold off a little bit this year. Brandon Marsh from the Angels. He goes to the Phillies for Logan O'Hoppe, which is the Phillies' number 3 prospect. The Twins had shored up their bullpen. They have one of the worst bullpens for the teams that are currently in the playoff hunt. They got Jorge Lopez, who's a stud from the Orioles, for 2 low prospects. So the Orioles are just getting rid of guys. They also got Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. So that's another bullpen arm for the Twins. Zach Pop and Anthony Bass, both relievers for the Marlins, pretty decent. They go to the Blue Jays for their number 4 prospect overall. The Orioles get Brett Phillips off of, I think they traded for him because the Tampa Bay Rays DFA'd Brett Phillips the other day. So Orioles ended up trading to get him. Jake Lamb, who the Dodgers signed to a minor league deal at the beginning of this year, is hitting like 220 something, but his OPS is around 700, 800. He goes to the Mariners. The Phillies get Thor from the Angels, Syndergaard, and they had to trade Mickey Moniak, who missed, I think, all of last year. He's one of their top prospects. He missed last year, but he goes off now to the Angels. We talked about earlier Harrison Bader from St. Louis. He's still hurt. He has that plantar fasciitis going on, but he goes to the Yankees for Jordan Montgomery, starting pitcher. So St. Louis gets a starting pitcher. Again, like we were saying, St. Louis got stronger. Phillies got stronger. We did our thing. Royals traded Whit Merrifield to the Blue Jays, unvaxxed Whit Merrifield to the Blue Jays. So I'm sure that will change because he can't get into Toronto without getting vaxxed. And then one final note, Raciel Iglesias, who we don't like in MLB The Show, because anytime you get a diamond player and you get Raciel Iglesias. I think you've got him once. I've got
him like
twice.
3 times, I think.
Yeah, he's just one of those low diamond players that you seem to pull from packs.
Him and
MLB
Aaron
The
Nola,
Show.
for some reason, I just get those guys all the time.
Yeah, I got a second Trey Turner this morning. I'm like, well, I already have a Trey Turner, but he goes to Atlanta, and I think the Angels just signed him to like a 4-year, $48 million deal at the beginning of the season. Now he's going off to Atlanta. So those were a lot of the just kind of big moves that kind of happened today throughout the day. It's always fun. Trade deadline day. For me personally, I think they need to do it on a Saturday because, you're keeping an eye on what's going on, and you're trying to work, and you're like, but I got to get stuff done. And so make it on a Saturday, Major League Baseball. Make it on a Saturday going forward, or a Friday, because nobody works on Fridays. Hope my boss didn't hear that.
All right. There you have it. I guess the one thing to point out is the players who were heavily rumored to get traded from the Cubs, Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ, they didn't go anywhere. Rodon and Peterson didn't go anywhere. Neither did Martin Perez and Matt Moore. So a lot of guys who were heavily rumored also did not get traded. And I think some of that Rodon thing was just these teams were not willing to risk the possibility of giving up a load for last couple months of the season and the playoffs, and then B, all of a sudden Rodon opting in and them not being ready for that. I don't think he's going to opt in no matter what. His season has been good enough to where he should be able to get a multi-year deal based off of this season alone.
Yeah, it would take an injury. It would take an injury for him to stay with the Giants next year, like a Cueto thing that happened. He could opt out. Ended up with Tommy John. He goes, I think I'll stick around. Getting a lot of money to work through my Tommy John injury, so I'll stay here. So it would pretty much take that for Rodon.
All right, really quickly, we usually do the short segment of what we're drinking. I'll just go first because you guys have been seeing me sip this throughout the show. I have a nice red here. It was my wife and I's second anniversary just yesterday. This is her favorite wine, Ridge, Three Valleys, Sonoma County. Literally her favorite wine, to the point of I think she probably has like alerts set on her phone if the Bevmo or Total Wine, like if it goes on sale or something, she gets pinged because she raced off to the store yesterday and then she came back and I was like, where did you go? Like, what? I thought you did all your errands. And she's like, oh, there was a sale at Total Wine. And I was like, okay. So for our anniversary, we had some of this, and I was just finishing off the bottle. But nice. That is what I am drinking today.
It is, well, it's been 103 here, 102 for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days in a row. Right now, you probably can't see out the window here, but it is absolutely pouring rain right now. The temperature dropped down to 90. We've got, we get up in Reno here, we get thunderstorms during the summer that are just, they're wicked, man. So that's why I told you earlier, I texted you, I said, I really hope my power stays on because I want to do the show tonight. We have a lot to talk about. We've been gone for a couple of weeks. And I was like, please, power, stay on. I don't hear any thunder. I don't see any craziness happening. But when it's 100+ degrees, I like to dip into the Terramana, as we both love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this quite often on the show, but it's nothing fancy. A little grapefruit Zevia, throw it in the old dirty Wookiee glass, and with a lime, and it's super refreshing. I've been barbecuing the last couple nights. My father-in-law got me a really cool for my birthday, Bluetooth cooking thermometer.
Oh wow!
I've been enjoying that so much because it's not something you can use if you're just doing a steak or if you're doing burgers or chicken, like chicken thighs or something. But last 3 nights out of the last week, I did a whole chicken, perfect to use it in that. I did a tri-tip and I did a gigantic, like 2+ pound pork tenderloin. and it works great in that. So I'll sit out there with the Bluetooth, get the alerts on the phone of, when I'm hitting certain temps, and it also checks ambient temperature of the
Oh,
barbecue,
wow.
which is great. And so I could just sit there with a drink and, stare up in the sky and just pretty much do nothing. So these are the drinks that I have when I'm doing
Nice.
that. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Perfect stuff. All right. So let's actually, I guess I'll just quickly talk about when I went to the game. And it was actually a really depressing game because, as we know, the Diamondbacks are not good.
No.
And their fan base. Now, it's kind of funny because I'm watching the Derek Jeter doc. And right when I saw that the doc was coming out, I was like, there's no way I'm watching 7 episodes of Derek Jeter. I'm not even that big of a Derek Jeter fan. But I've stuck with it, and I think I'm through episode 3 or 4 now. And the reason why I'm watching it is not because of Derek. Derek's not that interesting of a dude. He's just, he's kind of like just the winner guy, and he doesn't have really anything interesting or controversial to say. Nothing, none of that. But it is remembering baseball from the mid 90s through the early 2000s, like that time frame is kind of fun to revisit. So you're doing it through the lens of the Yankees or whatever. But so the Diamondbacks, they stopped the four-peat of the Yankees in 2001. And so I was like, just finished watching that episode, and you go to the Diamondbacks game right like today, and the fans are totally harmless. They're just hanging out. They're having a good time. I'm sure there's a large retired community out there as well. They're just enjoying a baseball game, not getting too high, not getting too low. Diamondbacks were actually beating the Giants. I expected to hear it. I was wearing my roadie uniform. Nobody cared.
No.
And it was just like, an afternoon at the park where, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't be able to tell who was the home team and who was the road team. There was I wouldn't say it was half and half Giants fans and Diamondbacks, but it was probably at least 35 to 40% Giants fans in that park.
Nice.
There were not that many people there either. There were like maybe 10,000 people.
But so 35 to 40% is like you got like 600 people.
But I like that. I like that park. Obviously, the Arizona weather's ridiculous, but the park, they put the roof over it, and it's nice and cool. It's small, so you can walk around the whole thing very quickly, looking for what you want to eat. And like I said, there's no it just feels like just hanging out. You're just hanging out watching baseball, which is kind of cool. But from the Giants' perspective, because I've been to a few games earlier this year, and the Giants, no matter what, they may not have the best, number 4 hitter. They may not have one singular hitter who scares the other team, but they compete. They compete in the batter's box. They take pitches. They foul balls off. Brandon Belt is, not swinging at a ball that he doesn't think he can hit over the fence. And in this game, there was none of that. Like even La Stella, we see La Stella as like the secret Zadie guy. When La Stella gets good, he's going to be the secret Zadie guy. This dude's swinging at pitches out of the zone, like not even close. And I was just like, what is going on here? Belt as well did not have the greatest game, though he did double in one of the runs. But there was no life in that club that day. Logan Webb, he was not trusting his defense for anything. He was trying to strike everybody out. He was not attacking as he usually does. So you could tell there's some psychology for him there, like thinking like, he even said it after the game. He's like, I was trying to strike everybody out. But like you could see like they're beaten down a little bit. Now this was through that losing streak. They beat the Cubs. Was it 3 out of 4?
It was 3 out of 4. Yes.
So they beat the Cubs,
lost the first game,
lost the Dodger game. So, they beat up on another bad team, which is the Cubs. But it was just like, man, these were the doldrums of the season, and they just wanted to get back home. No joy. Not that I could literally go to each player and go, how you feeling today? Are you happy? Are you sad? But just seeing like what they were doing out there on the park, on the field, it looked every bit of like, oh gosh, I cannot wait to get out of here. And it showed on the field. They were awful. And I'm fine with a team that is not great. Like, over the years, we've been to many games at Candlestick where the Giants weren't the best team on the field, but they had gamers. They had guys like, and we'll talk about him in a second, like Will Clark, who wasn't going to give up. And he was just going to be maybe even too fiery for his own good sometimes in those moments. And Robbie Thompson. But this team needed like one or two of those guys because there was just nothing going on. They were just a professional group of players who were finishing out a game and then getting on a flight to go home. And it was unfortunate because I was like, this is going to be the game. They're going to turn it around. They're going to beat up on this team. They're going to have a flight home. Everyone's going to be happy. And it was the exact opposite.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying too, because I almost feel like every night I'm watching the game and I'm going, okay, this is the night. This is the night.
Yeah.
Things start to happen and we start to turn around. But then when it does and they win like 9-2, then after the game you go, well, that's great, but I want to see that again tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And I want to see it again the night after that. And at least, 7 out of the next 10 nights, I want to see that. But would you say watching a game in person, Chase Field, right?
Yes.
Chase at Chase Field, would you say it's like watching like off-season baseball? Kind of feels that way watching it on TV, like winter ball or something.
Okay, so this is a comparison that I used to use when I was a kid, when I would try to compare what it was like going to the Oakland Coliseum versus going to Candlestick, because when we were younger going to Candlestick, the language, a little bit more blue from the Giants fans.
Yeah.
A few more F-bombs thrown in. And if you're a kid, you're hearing all this language and your just head's on a swivel. You're like, people really talk like this. Oh my God. And you kind of feel like you're a part of this like underground club, right? Like these rowdy fans. And then I would go to the A's games and it would be so prim and proper. And, everybody is sort of watching a professional team and no one's getting too excited, even though the A's were generally pretty good. When we were like teenagers. And so I would compare it like that. I would say, well, here's what it's like at Candlestick and here's what it's like at the Oakland Coliseum. That's sort of what I felt when I was there at Chase. Was like, oh, it sort of felt like a day game at Oakland Coliseum when there's like 7,000 people there, and so it was just, it didn't feel like a spectacle in any way. And I think that is part of the problem with this Giants team, because they're not struggling, but attendance wise, they're definitely not how they were when they were selling out Oracle Park every game. And I think people are kind of picking and choosing a little bit more these days. Part of that is because there's no Lincecum and there's no Posey and, there's no Mad Bum. There's no Bonds. So whoever, I think that the next guy that the Giants get that just is a hit, that just is like the next beloved player, that person is going to be so amazingly welcome for that club, because we just haven't had anybody. And Buster's more about sort of he's such professionally so good. Not because he's like this raw crazy guy like Will Clark is, which we'll segue into the Will Clark thing. But whoever that next player is going to be, it's probably not going to be Logan Webb, because he's really good already. But I don't sense that like the dynastic personality. I sense he's going to be like one of the homeboys. Like, oh yeah, that's one of our guys. But that star quality, Soto's going to be that for the next couple years, right? He's going to be that rock star.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever's the next rock star for the Giants, I think is just going to be like a giant thing in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and do we have him in the minors right now? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe it's Harrison. I'm still personally really high on Elliot Ramos. I know he's struggling right now, but I would love to see him. With Ruff gone, I would love to see more Ramos in the outfield. They need outfielders. I mean, they need guys who can field.
Come September, if they are not in the race, he should just play every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because and again, that brings me to the point too of Joey Bart, and then we'll get into Will Clark stuff. But about Joey Bart, I mean, in the past, you used to be able to give guys some leeway. Hey, they got to learn at the major league level. They don't always play in AAA and lights out and then come up to the majors and they just kind of carry that over into the majors. I mean, God, look at Matt Williams. He was horrible the first year and a half he was up in the majors.
Yeah.
So Joey Bart, I mean, the whole trade with Casalli is kind of saying, Joey Bart, you're learning on the job, man. We're not trading you. You're up here. Get that weight off your shoulders and let's go. This is you. You're commanding this pitching staff. You're here to hit. I mean, you see the bomb he hit the other night. I mean, it's just on Will Clark Day. That was just, I mean, that was amazing. He's got tremendous talent. And people just, they want to see him gone, man. But I don't, I'm still high on him too. I think he can be a great catcher. I think he can hit probably 250 with 30 home runs in a year or two. He's got to have some time. And I know he's older, but you got to learn at the major league level.
It is a little unfortunate that his rookie season or it has been going the way that it has, because he does have that personality to where if he was a good player, he would be beloved because he's hard-nosed. You could see it. You could see when he hits that ball and he knows he's got it, he's like, that's out. I've done that before,
Yeah.
and I think he could be one of those guys who just the fan base just opens their arms to, but they're not going to open their arms to a guy who's hitting 185 and strikes out,
No.
every 3 out of, every 5 at bats. So he's got to do his part too. Okay.
I want to get a shirt that says Joey Bart got a bad rap. I'm just going to wear that everywhere I go.
So talking about a guy who was drafted with the number 2 pick in the draft, just like Joey Bart was, it was Will Clark Day on Saturday at the ballpark. I didn't get to watch it live because I was headed to a friend's house. So I recorded it and then I watched it later. And man, that was so fun. From all of the guys who were there celebrating him to just Will himself, like that guy's got so much charisma. Now, enough about the participation trophies, Will. We get it. Like, you don't have to yell, you don't have to yell at everybody about that. But like the guy he's just got it. And that's that personality there. And so, he even mentioned, he's like, I may have rubbed some people the wrong way. That's why I had Robbie Thompson, the politician, next to me in the locker room. But that is what the fans saw. They saw a guy who was like, I may not be the fastest guy, but I'm going to play as hard as humanly possible to win all of these baseball games. That's what was missing in Arizona. That's probably what is missing from a lot of what the Giants do this year. And man, you're just reminded, you're taken back. And I mentioned sort of the romanticism of the game because, we try to cover this team. And I say cover, sort of loosely. We don't look at this kind of as journalists would. We look at it as fans first, but we're smart about it. We know a lot about the game. We're not going to be unbiased. We're biased. This is our team. This has been our team since we were kids. But the romanticism, sometimes I have a hard time with it in certain genres because as an adult, I find it hard myself to just be like, oh my God, I just love what this player does. And thus he's my favorite player. I don't look at sports that way anymore.
Right.
But I did as a kid. And so I can go back into being 10 years old and being at Little League practice and my dad telling me that they drafted Clark. And I remember watching the Little League World Series, not the Little League World Series, the College World Series. And he's got the aluminum bat with Mississippi Valley State or Mississippi State and the clank and then the Team USA that baseball was. I forgot what they called it back then in the Olympics, but he was on that 84 team with McGuire. It wasn't an actual Olympic sport, but then you go, oh, wow. And so, from being 10 years old, I had all this knowledge about him already. And so when I'm watching Will, bald head, he looks pretty good in a suit, but you see him outside of a suit, he's not the same thrill. He's a 50 some odd year old man. but you're like, man, that's the guy. It's still the same guy that is in there that I rooted for, that is part of this turnaround to what the team is today. And I just loved every second of his speech, of everyone else's speech, of the celebration. It was like perfect.
Oh yeah, and so I watched it live. Actually, everybody was out of the house. They were all, it was one was at the gym and the other one were shopping. So it was just me in the house. So I thought, oh, this is great. So at 5:00, I get to sit down with a beer and I get to finally watch like something. And this is what I want to watch.
Yeah.
I want to be in front of the TV for this. And just, they parade out everybody. Here comes Barry Bonds, or, Bochy and everybody else. And this is fantastic. And then Will, you could see when they play that video, man, chill. I had the chills. He had the chills. You can see he's already tearing up. He hasn't even come out of the dugout yet. And then when he comes out, man, and starts pointing to the crowd, he doesn't know what to do. He's kind of looking around, and it's Will. And like you said, that's the same old Will that we used to love. It's just the guy's, he's goofy, he's fiery. But man, when he got in the box, when he got in the batter's box, there was no goofiness. The fieriness kind of calmed down a little bit, and that laser focus. And that's what I posted on Instagram. I said, they retired the number today of the guy that all of us teenagers growing up in the Bay Area, he was a rookie. I was 13 years old. We all wanted to be him, man. We all wanted that attitude. We all took that attitude from him, and we went out to the field with it, and we tried to emulate like everything that he did. There weren't many other players. We didn't want to be Canseco. I didn't want to be McGuire. I didn't want to be any of those. I wanted to be Will Clark, man, because he was like us. He was just a weird dude who was always yelling and always firing and always trying to get everybody else fired up. And we thought that's what baseball is about. And I swear there had to be 4 or 5 times watching that I teared up, because it was just, this is all there. There were two celebrities, whatever you want to call them, growing up, that really just, anytime I think about them, that I get kind of teary-eyed and get kind of like excited, and it takes me right back to the place. And it's Eddie Van Halen and it's Will Clark. Those are the two that anytime I think about them, I know exactly where I'm at when I hear a song from Van Halen. When I think of a game that Will Clark played, I know exactly where I was when that hit happened or when this happened. So watching that, I felt like 13, 14, 15 years old again. And I thought the Giants did a great job who they invited. The speeches were nice and short until they got up to Will and they let him just go, man. It was so fantastic. I DVR'd it also, because I want to go back and I want to watch all this, especially Kruko's speech where he's imitating Will Clark with his high pitched voice. That was fantastic.
I didn't know that Will lived with the Krukos in his first.
I didn't know that either.
That's pretty crazy.
That is great. And Kruko lives up here, probably like, I don't know, 2 miles from my house. Will Clark, come on up. Stay a couple days with Kruko, and then maybe I'll meet you guys at an Italian restaurant somewhere, or a Louisiana Cajun restaurant
drink
somewhere.
Some
we'll
wine,
have some crawfish and drink some wine and hang out. So
that'll be amazing. So I liked seeing Robbie. We haven't seen Robbie in quite a while. I don't even know what he's doing, because I know he was in baseball after he played. He was third base coach for a couple different teams, and I thought he was kind of on the route to being a major league manager, but that never happened, and I don't know why. I hope somebody finds him and asks him some of those questions. Obviously, like seeing Barry dressed to the nines, looking sharp. Looks, that dude looks like he's 35 years old. What is going on? And that's a time of when we sort of knew when they signed Bonds, because it was Clark's team. Even though Mitchell won the MVP in 89, it was still Clark's team.
Oh yeah.
And we kind of knew without even saying anything, it was just the writing was on the wall that it was going to have to be Barry's team in order for Barry to be the Barry that he was. And so when Clark left after the 93 season, it was pretty sad, but I think for us Giants fans, we were like, okay, the reason why we can deal with this is because Barry is that good. And it's almost like you're sort of selling your soul to the devil in a way. Like, our favorite player is gone. Well, one of my favorite players, my favorite player was always Robbie Thompson, but always loved Clark too. Clark is gone, but that blow is softened a little bit. One, because the Giants are staying, because 2 years before that they were on their way out, and two, they just signed the best player in the game, and it was it was like as good as Will was, as good as Matt Williams was, as good as Kevin Mitchell was. Like, Barry was just on another level, and it was actually kind of cool to hear Clark say that, because when they were playing, he would have never said that, because he sort of saw himself as still competing with Barry in a way. But now they're both done. They're both retired, and Will basically said he was the best player that he'd ever been an opponent of and been a teammate of. And that I think that touched Barry, because he was surprised. He was like, "Me? You mean?"
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. Will was doing some weird stuff up there, because you're talking about how goofy he kept doing this. And usually when you put your fingers in your mouth, you're like you're using it to grab the paper. But he would do that, and I thought, okay, he needs to flip the page, and it's too slick. No, he just kept doing it for whatever reason. And then he would do this. He would do this.
Yeah.
And then he would do the point. I love
exactly.
that. I love that.
Well, because he was on the field.
Yeah.
He was on the field. So he's doing all this baseball stuff on
Yeah.
the field, because he's standing on the field. And I think he kind of felt like, this is where I'm at. This is what I do. So, yeah.
No, it was so good.
And then Hackman
was there. And that was interesting, because from all that we knew growing up was they didn't have the greatest relationship. You heard that, maybe Hackman didn't like how loud Will was and how Southern Will was, maybe. And, Hackman didn't take anybody's attitude for nothing. So that was probably an interesting transition, because Hackman was gone, soon thereafter, after, he was the playoff MVP that he was. So, yeah, just interesting times. And, I'm sure these guys look back and go, wow, I'm sure Will looks at that and goes, gosh, have I really been retired for that long? It feels just like yesterday that we were doing this. And it's amazing, because us fans sort of feel the same way. We feel like, I'm sure players are like, man, I wish I could go back. We wish we could go back too. I wish I could go back and watch Will, as many times as I was able to watch him play. I would love to go back and do it again. That's really the fun of this whole thing, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And watching the highlights too, that video, and then Will Clark posted on his Twitter that video, and I've watched it probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times since then. But again, the knock up the middle in game 5 of the NLCS against the Cubs in '89. I was at that game. Still, every time I see that highlight, I feel like I'm in the left field bleachers watching it happen. And you know how it goes when you're at Candlestick. You got Candlestick behind you there in the background. When you're at Candlestick and it's a full house and something happens and that roar happens, and that crowd stood up, and you thought that place was going to cave in on top of you because it was so old and crumbly, but how loud it was. I still feel that every time I see that highlight. I can feel that thunder from Candlestick Park happening, and it just gives you chills, man.
I was in junior high school, and I think we had a short day. And so my junior high school is probably about a mile, maybe a little bit more than that, of a walk to get to school. I booked it home. I was running. And then, because I tried to get my dad to come pick me up, and he's like, no. And I was like, the game. And he's like, oh, I'll have it taped. Don't worry about it. But I didn't want to see the tape version. I want to see those running. And right when I get home is that at bat.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so you caught it. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I had a buddy, Tommy Dickerson, in high school. He got 2 tickets to the game. I don't know how he got the tickets, but he goes, man, we got to go. He goes, we're going to this game today. I don't even know if I told my parents. I'm not even sure what I did. I just know I went to the game, and I left my car at school, And then when the game is over, we drove back to school, and I got in my car and drove home. So I started the day at school. I don't remember if I told anybody I wasn't going to finish the day at school, but
That's awesome. That's a great place to end it. All right, we're back. We took the short time off. I don't think I'll need any more time off for the rest of the baseball season. At least I have a couple of more trips, but they're workable as far as our schedule. So we'll be back more often than not.
Good,
so all right. So for Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.